MongoDB. What's that all about? What kind of database is MongoDB? No SQL.
No. Yeah.
So what is SQL? Let's go back and make sure we understand what that means.
That has relations.
Okay, so what is the acronym SQL? What does that stand for?
Query language.
Not system. Query is right. Anyone else?
Survey. Oh, I forgot.
Nope. Structured query, and then what's the L? Language. Yeah. Structured query language. Okay. All right. So maybe when you're thinking of NoSQL, you might be thinking, oh, well, this is completely unstructured. And that's sort of partially true. It's not that there's no structure, it's just that it's more of a loose structure. Okay, and I've developed a little slide for you guys that I have linked on the schedule. There it is, SQL versus NoSQL. You can click on this. And I just want to kind of establish some terminology that we're going to be talking about. So when we're in SQL land, we call our database either database or schema, right? Either one of those things is fine. In NoSQL, it's called a database, so no real big difference there. Watch out for the word schema, though, because that's going to reappear when we start talking about Mongoose. Okay, and it will be a different thing. The word schema will not mean a database. Okay. Also, when we're talking about SQL, we have these things called tables. Well, in a NoSQL database, we call them collections. Okay, not so different there. A record in a SQL database would be a document in a NoSQL database. Okay. Finally, when we talk about SQL databases, we have this concept of being able to relate one table to another, right, using these foreign keys. Well, in NoSQL databases, we don't really have the concept of joins. Instead, we have a concept of nesting. So I can actually nest documents inside of one another if I want to have some sort of relationship. Okay?
What's more popular, or what will we see more often in the workplace?
Probably a lot of SQL, I would say. Now, these NoSQL databases kind of came into popularity in, I don't know, the last 10 years or so. But you have to kind of think about what is the right tool for the job. If you're working on something that is very relational in nature, you've got a lot of these connections between different things, then a NoSQL database may not be the best fit for that. Okay? So don't always reach for it just because, like, ooh, it's the hot new thing, or I just want to do NoSQL or whatever. Make sure that it's a good fit for your project. Okay?
What about PostgreSQL?
Well, that's a type of SQL database. Yep. Yeah, PostgreSQL is a very popular database, and it's highly used in production scenarios. Okay. So let's talk about how to actually use this thing. I've installed MongoDB on my computer, and you guys will all do the same on yours. So if I open up a terminal here, make it bigger, to get into my Mongo shell, and this will be a little bit different for Windows users, I think you need to get into a certain directory to run this, right? I can just run Mongo. Oh. Actually, for Mac users, if you want to see which services you are running with Homebrew right now, you could say brew services list, and then it will eventually show you something. Yeah. So you can see here that I've got this MongoDB/community started right now. Okay. So that's how I know that it is currently running. When I want to get into my shell, I'll just type in Mongo. And there we go. I've got my Mongo shell. Okay. If I want to clear the shell, normally you think, oh, I just type in clear. That won't work. I can type in CLS. Okay. That'll clear it up for me. Okay. Now, if I just want to see all of my databases, I can say show databases. Okay, and that's all I have. I don't really have much in there right now. Or if you want a shortcut, you can just say show DBs. Okay. All right. Let's say that I want to use some database. You guys can see what I have. I only have those 4 databases. So let's say use Mongo demo. The heck? How was I able to switch to that database even though I don't have it? Seems kind of weird, doesn't it? Like, normally if we're in a SQL type situation, we can't switch to some database that doesn't exist. So you might think that, oh, that just created the database. Well, if I go back and show DBs, it's still not there. Kind of crazy, right? I'm able to use some database that doesn't even exist. And the reason why we can do this is because it's basically pretending like we're on that database, and until I insert something into the database, it still won't show as one of my databases. Okay? All right. So the other thing that we may want to know is what are the collections in our database? And this is like seeing what are our tables. Okay, so if I go show collections, I've got nothing inside this database, right? Because I haven't put anything inside of it.
So if you run it on the root, it would show the collections of every single database that you have?
No, I don't believe so.
No table, no collections on that level.
Let's try that, actually. Mongo.
Bye.
Yeah, it said bye. Sometimes programs will do that. Okay, so let's just do show collections, because right now I'm not really technically using a database, so still nothing. So yeah, nothing. But let's actually insert something into this new database that I'm trying to create, right? So we'll do use Mongo demo. Okay, now we've switched to Mongo demo, and then I'm going to say db dot some collection name. Okay, so I'm basically making up a table on the fly because I don't have any collections right now. So I'll say db dot students dot insert. Okay. If you guys had to tell me what language this kind of reminds you of, what would you say?
Calling a function.
Yeah, it looks just like JavaScript, right? Not so different. Okay, so if I go in here, I just want to insert one of these documents, and we'll just put some information here. So I'll say first name, Francis, last name, bless you. Okay, and then let's do that. It's telling me, okay, I've inserted 1, so that's cool. Now what I can do is I can go back and I can see who are all of my students that are inside this collection. So the way that we do that is we're going to say, let me clear this real quick, we're going to say db and then dot whatever the collection name, which in this case was students, right? And then I'm going to say dot find. Okay, like this. There we go. You see that I've got Francis in here, and then, whoa, I've got this little object ID in there. What does that look like?
It created an ID.
It created this ID, but it's a really long string. It's not an integer, right? Okay, cool. So that's something that we didn't really have to worry about. And notice, too, that it's an underscore ID. Okay, this will become important when we start doing full stack projects, that underscore ID. Because like if we're iterating through a list and React wants a unique key, well, we can use that, right? That's going to be a nice thing to use. All right. What if I want to print out all of the documents that are inside this collection and I want it to look a little bit nicer? Well, I can do this. db.students.find. So the same function, and then I can chain a call to this pretty function. That's a little better, right? A little more readable. We've got all the key value pairs set up on single lines. Okay, so let's say we want to add another student. Students, oops, dot insert. And this time I want to insert Lawrence. But watch, I'm going to change the name of that key. I'm going to say first underscore name. Lawrence. Okay, last name. Whoops. Okay. So you guys can see the key names have been changed, right? Totally different than the first student. Did Mongo have an issue with that? Doesn't care one bit. You guys can see that these are basically just like JSON objects, right? Doesn't care what we put in the key name, the keys and values. As long as it's a JavaScript object, we're fine. So if I go back to db.students.find.pretty, there we go. Okay. So this is kind of one of the features of these NoSQL databases, which is that before, when we were in SQL databases, we had very concrete fields. Now we can sort of say whatever fields we want at any given time, right? It's totally loose. Later on, we'll bring in Mongoose to actually tame some of that uncertainty, because it'd be kind of crazy if we were trying to loop through things in our application and everything had different key names, right? Be like, how could we predictably, output some data for that? Okay. So we've pretty much done two of the main things, right? We've created documents, and then we've also read documents. What if I want to find a document by ID, for instance? I'm going to grab this object ID right here. And what I'm going to do is I'll say db.students.find. Actually, I'll say find one, because I'm trying to find just one document, right? And then inside the parentheses, when I call this function, I need to provide it some key value restrictions here. So I'll say ID, and then I'll set that equal to this object ID that I just put there. And then as you can see, we did indeed get Frances. That's how we could find her by ID.
Can you try first name?
Yeah, we could do that too. So let's clear this out. We'll say db.students.find1. Or let's say that I thought I might have multiple Franceses in my database. I can just say find, and then I can say first name Whoops. Oh wait, her key was without the underscore. I gotta do this right. Name Frances. Okay, so there we go. So that works. And I can also do the same thing with find one, and that would be just finding a single document, right? It wouldn't give me back a bunch if I had multiple Franceses.
If you're not going to get to it, is there any way to grab find by ID in an easier way?
Than this? Oh, than what we were doing before?
Than using the entire object ID.
But that is the ID, though. What do you mean an easier way?
That was my question, which you answered, so no.
Well, I mean, think about it. If I'm trying to find something by ID, I'm going to have to pass the ID, right?
Yeah.
That was
Would
a
be
heck
like-
of an
I'm
ID.
saying that's a pretty that's a pretty unwieldy ID.
Well, it seems unwieldy, but don't worry about it now, because, again, this is just happening in the Mongo shell. We're going to be interacting with Mongo through this thing called Mongoose.
Oh, okay. So we can actually eliminate.
And a lot of this stuff, like, we're not going to be literally typing out IDs.
That was my worry.
We'll have them inside of an object, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, don't worry about that.
Well, if we click on it, if I
Seems like we're gonna be-
use like
seems
the
like we're
find
gonna
the first name Francis and last name Lou, will show up two objects.
No, it'll still only find one, so
Like,
Well,
are you gonna
consider
find
the
it?
first.
I already know it.
Her first name and my last name. So
oh, you're trying to do an OR type situation, right?
that's Oh, it's just cool. There was
Like an and or.
Okay, let's try doing an or real quick. I think we can use the $or if I remember correctly. So let's say db.students.find. Okay, and then what we're gonna say is or. Oops, I need a colon here so I can say or first name Francis last underscore name, right? Okay. Let's try this. So then I need to close this twice. Or must be an array. Oh, okay. Whoops. Mess that up. So I guess what I would do is I would do an array here, right? And then I would end this object. Okay. Whoops. Why did I end the array? And then we'd have another object that has this other key value pair that we're interested in. Like that. What? Oh, is my syntax messed up?
Missing.
You
But you have one. But you have it.
Wait. Oh, I have to. Yeah, I have too many curly braces. Yep. There we go. Okay, so that's how we could use or. Yeah.
What about like inserting something nested?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. Yeah, absolutely. So, good point. So let's say that I want to insert some new user, and this time we're gonna have maybe an array inside that user. Oh, did you need to see that?
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry.
know.
Apologies. All right, so let's insert a new one. So we'll say db.students.insert. Okay, first name Erica, last name Herrera. Okay, and then we'll have say like an interests array, right? So say interests
Coding.
coding. That was fast. Cool. And then let's close that out and let's insert. So we inserted Erica. So again, if we do db.students.find.pretty. Ooh. Okay. So there she is. You can see that we're able to have this array inside there. And we can actually add to her interests.
Oil painting.
Oil painting. Wow, that's cool. Do you have any that you could bring in?
Sure. But there's small.
That's all right. Be a cool thing to share. All right. So let's do this. Let's db.students. Actually, I want to clear this just so that we keep our terminal pretty clear. So we'll say db.students.update1. Okay. And then when we run this update1, what we need to do is we have to provide an object indicating which document in our collection we're trying to find, right? Before we update it, we need to find the correct one. So the first object here will say underscore ID, and I'll set that equal to Erica's ID. I'm going to end that object, and then the second object is going to be how do we want to update Erica, okay? We have to use this thing called a set operator, and that's saying I'm going to set some properties in a certain way, okay? And then inside here, I'm going to say I'm going to push to her interests array. This is kind of nasty to look at, but okay, so interests, whoops, and then we'll add oil painting to it. Okay, now how many closing things do I need? 2. That should be enough, right? No.
It was too much.
What happened? Right error. The dollar prefix field push in push is not valid for storage. What did I do wrong? Oh, you know what? Hold on a sec. Maybe I overcomplicated this. So let's do db.students.update1. We'll pass in the same underscore ID. Okay. And then here we'll say push interests oil painting 2 this time, right? Okay, there we go. So this time we were able to modify 1. And then if I go back to all of them, you can see that we have in fact added that interest to her array.
And that's because the interest is an array.
Yeah, so notice that this, again, these documents are just JSON essentially, right? They act exactly as we would expect JavaScript to behave.
Can you add the interest to the other one? Or do you have to create another new one?
Yeah, I could do that. So let's see. Let's say I want to add interest to Lawrence. Let me grab his ID. Let's clear that out. Okay, and we'll say db.students.update1. Give it this document here, and we'll say ID is his object ID. And then in here, let's say set, and then we'll say interests are going to be MERN. All right, fair enough. Cool.
No, you just set them.
Yeah, we could just set it.
So
Exactly.
what's the difference between push and set?
Well, the difference is because I did
Like
set
creates-
here because he didn't even have this
Okay.
key inside of his object at that time, right? But if the array is already there, then go ahead and push to it.
There's a comma in between.
Push is kind of you adding the interest.
Exactly. So it's just like how an array would function in JavaScript, right? So push to an array.
So if we set exist key, it gonna change override the exist. But like
Oh, if I then do a set for interest and say it's like something other than an array, yeah, it would overwrite it.
okay.
Yeah.
Can I see that line where you set the interest to MERN real quick?
Oh yeah, sure. So that was right here. Yeah.
And then right.
Is this just for the key that has the value as array, or we can use it for the string also, like last name? I'm interested.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about. Is that if I wanted to overwrite last name with an array or something, I could use that set operator to do that.
Is that for array?
No, set is just going to overwrite whatever a value was for some key. Yeah. If I wanted to delete a key from an object, you can also use this operator called unset. So $unset is kind of the same thing. You probably won't really need to use that very much though, so I don't think it's super important. Okay. So that's how we can update documents, right? We've done 3 out of the 4 CRUD operations. So what else do we want to do?
Address, like adding like a nested object.
Oh, adding a nested object? Okay. Let's see. Let's.
Like an address with like
Oh,
street, city.
zip code.
All right. So let me grab. Air. You guys are demanding. All right. Update 1 underscore ID. It's this object ID, right? And then we're gonna say set. Oops. So we're going to set address to an object, you're saying?
Yeah, that has like a city, a street, after.
Okay. All right. So let's say street 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first street, and then city Burbank. Okay, let's close out this guy as well, and then I need to close out the last one. Okay. Okay, so that worked. There you've got your nested object. It's exciting. Cool. All right. So yeah, you can see the actual structure of this is incredibly flexible. You know, I could sort of throw whatever I want inside there as long as it's a valid JSON object. Okay. But the last operation that we haven't yet shown is delete, right? All right, so let's do that. So let's say who's going to get removed?
Eric.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Erica gets removed because she has so much stuff in her record, right? All right.
She's not in the database, she erased herself.
Yeah, she's had it. All right, so let's do db.students, and then we'll say delete 1. Okay, so I'll say underscore ID, and I'm just going to pass in that object ID that I've got. Acknowledge deleted count equals 1. If I look at who I've got, Erica's gone.
Is there like a key that we need to avoid to not delete all at once?
What do you mean not delete all at once?
Like if we just put delete, we still need to pass an ID, right, to see what to delete. We can't.
Well, you'd have to specify something. It doesn't necessarily have to be an ID. Like I could say delete and then pass in my object, I can say delete anyone who has a first name of Francis.
That will delete the whole object.
Yeah, it will delete all of the documents that have a first name key set to Francis.
Oh, are you saying you want to delete just your interest field
Yeah.
from Erica? Like if we want to delete Lawrence's interest for
Interest, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do that then. So yeah, what I was telling you guys before is that you could remove a key, and the operator for that is unset.
unset, that's right.
Yeah. So you could just say db.students. Whoops. Dot update 1. Document is going to be this, and then we'll say here unset interest, right? I'm probably not doing this right because I don't do it very often. Is it right? Okay. Yeah, modifiers operate on fields, but we found type, mod, unset. All right, now I'm going to have to look this up. You guys won't really need to do this much, but just good to know. Unset operator, field. Oh, I guess I just need to provide like an empty string for it, even though
Oh, you have to like
I was unsetting it. Yeah, it was like the syntax was pretty close. You'd say unset, and then you'd create another object here. The key name is interest, and then we would just set it to an empty string. There we go.
But then that means it would just make interest the field still exist. Oh no.
No, see, it's gone. Yeah, I took it out.
I would have thought it would be
Yeah,
just empty.
Yeah, interest empty string. Yeah. Oh, because it's an unset.
Because I used the unset
If you
operator.
set it, then
Yeah,
interest would
Would
still
be
be there,
there.
but empty.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
unset. Cool.
I unset it.
Like, okay.
Done. He's. Yes, Greg. Question? Oh, stretching. All right, that's it. There's not much else to know about Mongo. This is just, again, how we can operate with Mongo through the shell. But normally in our applications, we'll be connecting using this thing called Mongoose.
And you said Mongoose is a little more
It's going to help us provide structure to something that's otherwise extremely
it's
loose.
gonna be mayhem.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have thumbs on this.
So it's a merge and
So we don't have a create. Like it just
Stop the
update.
video.
See, it's
We only have update and have create.